The time has finally come. The base roster for Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles is finally complete. All the demons are here, all that's left is a single DLC character, Tengen Uzui, coming out later. But all the free demons have now been released and the game got a balance patch as well, which means it is time to update the tier list. If you want to watch my thoughts on most of the roster, I recommend watching my previous tier list video because we're going to use that as a basis to start this off. And of course, as always, this is my opinion on how strong I think these characters are. If you guys disagree, that is totally fine. Let me know in the comments, just keep it civil. But let's start by making some changes. From the bottom, I'm gonna raise Sabito to a B tier. It didn't get buffed or anything, I just think C-Claw figured out his game plan. Sabito is much more of a reset character than we initially thought. The fast charge on his strong attack and the long range grab, paired with the decent damage he has for low meter, kind of enhanced this playstyle. It's a bit technical and I still think the character has a lot of flaws, but he's not as bad as I previously thought. Between him and Inosuke, I think very little separates the two characters in terms of strength. Makomo, however, I think she's a lot weaker now. And again, she didn't get nerfed, she didn't get touched at all. I just think she's weaker because of the demons that they released. Previously, Makomo's biggest strength was her neutral. She could easily water wheel and get in for free. She had low damage but good resets and relentless pressure. Now, she still has good resets and relentless pressure, but the neutral isn't quite as strong. Because a lot of the characters in this roster now have projectiles, so Makomo can't quite get in for free as she used to. She has to play a more honest neutral like everyone else, so I'm gonna slyly nerf her down on the tier list to the bottom of B tier. And don't you worry, because I didn't forget about Akaza down there. Akaza would climb on the tier list even without the extensive list of buffs that he got. Akaza has some anti-zoning that makes him really good against all of these projectile-based demons, so he gained a lot of good matchups before he even got buffed. But the buffs make him an absolute monster. He can still shut down approaches easily, he can dish out a lot of damage, his grab now deals 1700 damage for a fast grab that's really insane, and thanks to the buffs he has a much easier time breaking guards now, which was the biggest character flaw. It was so easy to just sit there and block against an Akaza because the only thing you had to fear was the grab, and that was a very low damage grab. And if you read that the grab is coming, Akaza just explodes. Now the grab is still risky, but the reward is so much greater thanks to the damage buff, and Akaza players don't have to go for it so often since they have a means to guard break the opponent, making blocking against Akaza much scarier than before. Plus, his dash speed is absolutely crazy. He can get in and out of range like no other character, which to me makes Akaza an A tier character now. I'm gonna put him up there right below Rui. He still takes the most amount of damage in the game. It's still risky to go for a lot of his options, but I think those are his downsides that are keeping him from being a top tier. I really like where this character is right now, balance-wise. Hinokami Tanjiro, we're also gonna bring him up on the tier list. First, I mentioned his assist not being the best in the previous video, and I got proven wrong. Cross slash is an amazing assist. It's not something that you can throw and wait to see if it hits or not. No, you throw the assist and you assume that it's just gonna connect. Otherwise, you'll drop the combo or your pressure. But it's an assist that covers a very big area and it's one of the best damage assists in the game. Also, I mentioned his resets not being that big of a deal, and I think Savior Zombie has just proved me wrong on that too. His resets are kind of expensive, but they actually work, even at the highest level of Demon Slayer gameplay. So that on its own would already bring him up to A tier in my opinion, but then the patch also buffed his grab. I mean, the patch buffed everybody's grab, but it buffed Hinokami's more than most. Hinokami now deals 1800 damage on his grab, and this is a long range grab, making it potentially the best in the game. That's just gonna add to his reset game, so I think he's an A tier and I'm gonna put him above Rui on the tier list. And while we're here, let's just raise Rengoku a single slot because the grab buffs really benefited him as well. He's got the same grab damage as Hinokami Tanjiro, so now these two have the highest damaging grabs in the entire game. That's not a big change for Rengoku though, so he's only gonna climb a single spot, and no, Urokadaki's nerf has nothing to do with it. That was a nerf that I really don't think affects Urokodaki in a big way. Extending the water wheel in neutral was always a dumb thing to do. It's just dumber now, it doesn't affect high level gameplay at all. Now Zenitsu, I'm actually making this guy a top tier for two main reasons. One, his damage just keeps rising. New tech just keeps getting discovered that it feels like he's always dealing optimal damage no matter the situation. Players have found routes that get more out of him without needing an optimal starter. And two, the same reason as Hinokami, I underestimated his assist before. If Hinokami has one of the best assists for damage, then Zenitsu has the best one for sure. With a single hit, it doesn't affect scaling too much, and it's so good for sniping enemies, it's crazy. I'm making him a top tier and placing him above Water Tanjiro. Water Tanjiro got a significant nerf to Water Wheel, which was pretty fair in my opinion, but it wasn't a nerf that killed the character in any way. He's pretty much the same, but he's gonna sit below Zenitsu on my tier list. And that's it for changes. Everything else is gonna stay the same on this tier list. I thought about bringing Nezuko down a couple of spots because of the assist nerf, and while I think most tier lists have Nezuko as a top tier because of her assists, and we're gonna see a lot of tier lists change because of this nerf, the main reason why I put her up there her is because of what she does as an active character. I still think she's one of the most versatile, high damage dealers in the game with an absolutely busted tilt skill on top of that. She is still number 1 in my opinion. Rui also got some small buffs, but I don't think that moves him in the tier list at all. So with that, we've made all the changes. Let's move on and add some of the demons. First up, Yahaba. I think he is a C tier. Yahaba is very annoying to fight against, I completely agree. But I always said he had a lot of weaknesses that just cannot be corrected with player skill. Big recovery every time he throws anything while jumping, and extremely expensive neutral. He's always spending bar to gamble for a hit. And what convinced me that this was really the case was seeing Nikito play against Savior. Savior exposed every single one of those weaknesses, and Nikito adapted way better than I expected. He did things with Yahaba I didn't even know were possible. But even the best Yahaba player in the world could not plug those weaknesses. I think Yahaba players can get a lot of wins because Yahaba forces a very different playstyle, and this being an arena fighter, no players will adapt. So Yahaba is going to win a lot of matches against people who are not ready for that matchup. That said, if you know the matchup, there's not a lot that Yahaba can do to adjust to that. He's one of the weakest characters in the game. Susamaru, on the other hand, is one of the strongest. I would put her at the top of A tier. She's got that very unique playstyle of getting in and out of range. She's very hard to punish. She's got some incredible damage, but the thing is, to get that damage, she is a resource-intensive character. She doesn't get much from an attack button, which means she's constantly trying to tilt skill and guard skill to start a combo. Now, the abilities are safe, so if they're blocked, it's not a big deal. In fact, with the increased chip damage and guard damage, you might even get a guard break. But if you don't get it and the opponent blocked your options, she spends way too much meter for the damage that she's getting. That's really her only downside, so in a way, I'm actually happy that her normal attacks don't deal that much damage and only give her a red combo. She would be absolutely busted if she got more from that free projectile. And for the final two characters, let's start with Yushiro. Yushiro felt absolutely busted when I first picked him up. Low damage character for sure, but with incredible neutral and a counter that just goes through everything, with amazing reset potential on top of it. It felt like Yushiro just had it all except for damage, and that's when I ran into this Gyu player, and it just hit me. Gyu can dead calm his counter on reaction, and if that's the case, then every character with an armored special or DP can also do the same. Gyu is gonna get a bigger reward out of it, but every other character can shut it down. Looking at this tier list, I'm gonna highlight the characters that have such an ability. Yep. That is pretty much everyone. Enmu is also a part of this list, by the way. That means that yes, Yushiro can counter everything, but he can also get hit in the face by a reversal if the opponent has at least 1 bar of meter. He can actually cancel after the dodge animation into his tilt skill, so he can definitely bait a reversal, but it is a gamble, and it's a gamble that costs Yushiro 2 bars of meter to counter an option that only costs 1. And even if you bait it correctly, what Yushiro is going to get is a small combo and maybe a reset opportunity. He doesn't get a big punish because Yushiro is not a big damage dealer. And because of that, I think you can definitely play Yushiro, do well and win, but you're gonna need to outplay your opponent so much that it feels like you're starting at a disadvantage. So to me, Yushiro is kind of on the same level as Yahaba. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of C tier. And finally, let's talk about Enmu. I feel like every DLC, we got a really strong character right next to a really weak character, and this was no exception. Enmu is a top tier character for sure. He has the best resets in the game with the range of his throw, the unblockable demon skills, and the strong attack range and charge time. Good resets usually come with a damage penalty. Characters that have good resets usually deal very low damage. That's not the case with Enmu. He's got good damage as well, and even if the opponent guesses right and blocks the reset attempt, he's got the best mix-up in the game. With dash cancel pressure into throws or the sleep ability thrown in unexpected places, he's got so many options. He's got good neutral too with the slow projectiles that he can follow behind, or the jumping projectiles. Really, the only downside I can see on Enmu is the damage that he takes with a 1.2 times damage multiplier. Incredible character. I think he is currently a top 3 character in the game. And that concludes the tier list. We'll update it once again once there's another balance patch, and of course, once Uzui gets added to the game, we'll also throw him in there. Should be exciting. A Demon Slayer as a DLC doesn't just add a character to the game, it also adds an assist. So it'll be interesting to see what the character gives other characters, what combinations will come out of that, in addition to having the character itself. But we'll get there when we get there. Happy holidays, everyone, and thank you so much for the 250,000 subscribers here on the channel. 250,000. Just gotta do this whole thing 3 more times and we reach 1 million subs. It's easy. And that's also gonna do it for videos in 2021. I very much look forward to what the next year will bring. We've just added a new editor to our roster, so we should be able to make even more videos next year. So one last time this year, as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!